She was 25, she was glowing, and she was 7 months pregnant with her first child. Then gone. No trace, no struggle, no goodbye. On a warm August morning in 1996, Fiona Pender stepped into the void, and Ireland has never stopped asking, what happened to her? For nearly 3 decades, her name has lingered in whispers, her face frozen on missing posters, and her story buried beneath silence and speculation. But now 2025 has cracked the silence wide open, because Gardaí have officially declared this no longer a missing persons case, it's murder, and they're digging literally for her body in a remote bog near Tullamore. The case is back, and it may finally be solved. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear isn't a cold case, it's a burning one. Before she became a headline, Fiona Pender was someone real. She was 25 years old, living in Tullamore, a quiet town in County Offaly. A hairdresser by trade, Fiona also did part-time modeling. Friends described her as warm, kind, and full of life, someone who lit up a room without even trying. She wasn't just another face on a poster. She was a daughter, a sister, and soon to be a mother. At the time of her disappearance in August 1996, Fiona was 7 months pregnant. It was her first child. She had already picked out names. She had her baby bag packed. She was excited, counting the weeks until she'd hold her baby in her arms. She lived in a small flat on Church Street in the center of Tullamore, and she wasn't living alone. Her boyfriend, John Thompson, a local farmer, shared that space with her. But on the morning of August 23rd, 1996, that ordinary life was shattered, because Fiona was never seen again. The timeline is razor sharp, no gaps, no gray areas. 6 in the morning, Friday, August 23rd, 1996, Fiona Pender was last seen alive by her boyfriend, John Thompson. He says she was at their flat on Church Street, Tullamore, when he left for work on his family's farm. There was nothing unusual, no shouting, no panic, no hint that anything was wrong. That was the last verified sighting of Fiona. Later that day, she didn't contact her mother, which was extremely out of character. Fiona and her mom, Josephine, were very close, especially during the pregnancy. She missed a planned visit, didn't return any calls. By the evening, alarm bells were ringing. Fiona's handbag, clothes, and other belongings were still in the flat. Nothing had been taken. No signs of forced entry. No struggle. But she was gone. And just like that, Fiona Pender disappeared completely, silently, and without a trace. No note, no witnesses, no CCTV. Just a heavily pregnant young woman vanished into thin air. As soon as Fiona was reported missing, Gardaí launched a full investigation, and at first they treated it like a standard disappearance, hoping she might have gone somewhere voluntarily, maybe overwhelmed by pregnancy stress. But that theory didn't hold water. She left everything behind: her clothes, her money, her handbag, even her prenatal items. Fiona had no history of mental health issues, no plans to travel, and most importantly, she had absolutely no reason to run. This wasn't a young woman in crisis. This was a woman preparing for motherhood. So Gardaí changed gears, and quickly it became clear something terrible had happened. Over the next weeks and months, they conducted extensive searches in the Tullamore area. They took over 300 witness statements. They even made 5 arrests over the years, all later released without charge. Multiple tips came in, but none led to Fiona. There was no crime scene, no body, no forensic evidence strong enough to make a case. And slowly, the investigation cooled. The posters faded, the press stopped calling, and Fiona's face became a symbol of Ireland's long list of unresolved tragedies. But one thing never changed: her family never stopped believing she was murdered. And almost 30 years later, that belief was finally confirmed. From early on, Gardaí had their suspicions. They believed Fiona wasn't a random victim. This wasn't a stranger abduction. They believed she knew her killer. In 1997, just 1 year after Fiona vanished, Gardaí detained a man for questioning. He was someone from her circle, someone she knew. But despite being a person of serious interest, he was never charged. Why? Because there was no body, no weapon, and no direct evidence linking him to a crime. He eventually left Ireland and has spent more than a decade living abroad. Gardaí have monitored him, and as recently as this year, his name has resurfaced in internal files tied to the reopened investigation. But the reality is brutal. Without solid proof, Irish authorities cannot extradite or arrest him. He walks free while Fiona's family remains in the dark. To this day, the suspect's identity has never been made public, but multiple sources confirm. Gardaí still believe he holds the key to what happened that morning in August 1996. After nearly 3 decades of silence, something shifted in May 2025. A local man came forward with what Gardaí called highly significant new information. This wasn't another rumor. This wasn't another dead-end lead. It was serious enough that Gardaí made it official. Fiona Pender is no longer just missing, she was murdered. And for the first time in 29 years, the investigation turned physical again. Gardaí launched a major search operation in a remote bogland near Killy, just 10 kilometers outside of Tullamore. They weren't just looking, they were digging. Cadaver dogs, specialist forensic teams, heavy-duty excavation equipment, soil analysis, drone mapping, grid searches. The area was scoured for several days in May, but once again, nothing was found. No body, no baby, no closure. Still, Gardaí remain confident. They are now investigating this as a homicide and the person responsible is still alive. And if the rumors are true, that person could be watching this story unfold right now. Think about this. For 29 years, Fiona Pender's name has never been cleared from the unsolved list. Her face stayed on posters, her story echoed on local radio, and her family lived every day with a question no one could answer. The lack of evidence didn't just stall the investigation, it became a kind of psychological prison for everyone left behind. The community watched 5 arrests. All of them collapsed. Leads would come and go. Searches were launched, then quietly ended. Every few years, hope would spike and fall again. And because there was no grave, no cause of death, and no justice, rumors thrived. Was it the boyfriend? Was it a jealous ex? Was she buried on farmland? In the bog? Did someone in town help cover it up? None of those questions ever got answers. And in the silence, speculation filled the void, turning Fiona's disappearance into legend instead of a solvable crime. But here's the real tragedy. For all that time, the people who knew her weren't looking for theories. They were just waiting for the truth. No one suffered more than Fiona's family. Her mother, Josephine Pender, never gave up. For years, she spoke to media, handed out flyers, pleaded with the public desperate for answers. She believed Fiona was murdered from the very beginning. But Josephine never got the truth. She died in 2017, still carrying the weight of her daughter's disappearance. Her father, Fiona Pender, was crushed under that same grief. In 2000, just 4 years after Fiona vanished, Fiona died by suicide. Friends said he never recovered from losing Fiona or from the death of her brother Mark, who died in a motorcycle crash just 1 year before Fiona disappeared. In just 4 years, the Pender family lost 3 children, 2 to tragedy and 1 to the unknown. And still, no one was held responsible. No apology, no body, no grave to visit. Just empty anniversaries and a cold file. Tullamore is small, quiet, the kind of place where everyone knows your name and everyone knew Fiona Pender. Her disappearance didn't just rattle one family, it haunted an entire town. Back in 1996, her face was everywhere, taped to shop windows, church walls, and street lamps. Community searches were organized, candlelight vigils held. People checked their sheds, their fields, their roadsides, hoping to find anything. And as the years passed, the posters faded, but the memory never did. Ask any longtime resident today, and they'll tell you they still remember where they were when they heard Fiona was missing. The 2025 search in the Killy Bogland. It didn't just reopen the case, it reopened emotional scars. People from all over Offaly followed the story, hoping this time someone would finally bring her home. Because for Tullamore, Fiona wasn't just a victim, she was one of them, and her silence still echoes through every street in town. Almost 3 decades have passed. Fiona Pender's name has become part of Ireland's true crime history, but not because justice was done, because justice was denied. In 2025, Gardaí finally said what Fiona's mother had been saying since day one. Fiona was murdered, but with no remains, no charges, and a prime suspect living freely abroad. The case is still wide open. And that's the tragedy. We know more now than we ever did. The case is active. The Gardaí are motivated. The public is paying attention again. But the one thing that matters most is still missing. Fiona. There's no grave, no memorial, no resting place for her unborn child. What happened in those hours after her boyfriend left for work in August 1996? Who took her? Why? And where is she? Someone knows. And if there's any justice left, maybe finally they'll come forward. Until then, this isn't history. It's a crime scene waiting for closure.